All right, I wanted to go live just because, and here we go. I was trying to hit everything in the tech world so that it all goes since it's impromptu. And okay, I'm live where I wanted to be. So I just thought I would pop in. Thanks so much for joining. If you're joining, my name is Jessica Rice. I am the founder of Jessica Rice Coaching. And I just felt it on my heart today to share a little bit about some of the things that I feel like, we might be experiencing, we might be coming up with in terms of today. It's election day. We are experiencing a lot of trepidation, a lot of tension. There's a lot of pressure. And, the most important thing for any of us to consider is our energy, what it is that we're focusing on, what it is that we are here to do. And so to just provide a little bit of grace. And so the more that we can direct our attention to the things that matter, we can't control the entire outcome. And I think sometimes, especially when we're running a business or we're leaders, we feel this immense pressure to control the outcome, the situations, the things that we are trying to be a part of and see through. And so letting go of that and shedding our control is incredibly vital to the health of not only our organization, but to ourselves. And so the more that we can start to manage our thoughts and manage our energy, the greater opportunity we have to see through to different outcomes. And so when I say manage our energy, I'm thinking about what our thoughts are, what our outlook is, what are our intentions, what are the actions that are truly being put forth? Where is our focus? And do we believe, do we have faith in ourselves, in the people that are around us to make the right decisions? And I think that is so present even more today than ever, because we lack some of that faith and we lack some of that trust within each other. And yet, how are we going to move forward together? How do we create greater unity? How do we work together to create greater peace when we're facing so much tension and turmoil? And it really comes back to ourselves. It comes back to what we focus on. And I was in an interview this morning and we were talking about what is it that leaders need the most. And sometimes it's not what they think. It's not what we think that we need. It's the pieces that we don't see. See, when I moved into coaching, I started to look into neuroscience in a greater way because I wanted to come to terms with some of the things I'd faced in my own life: trauma, abuse, illness, different things that I had gone through, and wanted to know how to A, overcome, and B, help others to overcome, help others to recognize that there is so much more that we can bring forth and bring to the table than we fully recognize if we can get out of our own way. But in order to do so, it requires us to let go. It requires us to think about our lives differently, to shed our skin and think through how we can be of greater service, how we can be of greater purpose in walking in alignment with what it is that we're called to do. What does it truly mean to be in the positions that we are in, and how we lead, how we influence, and how do we create change and possibility? And it is so much more about how we show up, how we communicate, how we listen, how we create space, how we usher in progress, and how we create room for other ideas and approaches and ways of doing things. Running a business, having leadership, creating motivated and high-performing teams. It starts with us and how we start to cultivate our minds, our days. And so the more that we can think about what it is that we're focusing on, what it is that we are working towards, what it is that we're trying to create. We have to be guardians of our mind. We have to work on our mindset above all. There's this phrase in neuroscience: what fires together, wires together. That means that when we're thinking things and we're associating it with different aspects of our lives, different circumstances, experiences, relations, we are creating connections. It actually starts to form together. Those neural pathways are forming together. And so what fires together, wires together. And we have to be very mindful and very deliberate with the assumptions that we hold to be true. We have to be very mindful of what we're focusing on, what we're thinking, what we are believing about ourselves and about those around us. Are we hopeful? Are we focusing on the positive outcomes? Are we focusing on what it is that we're wanting to cultivate and create? Or are we focusing on negative outcomes? See, when we have low-level energy, we have low-level outcomes. And when we have high-level energy, we have high-level outcomes. What we put into it is what we get out. And this is a universal truth. Regardless of what it is that our faith or our background, is, it's a universal truth that when we start to focus on the right things, we can be a part of a movement of change that is greater than any one of us is by ourselves. So what are we focusing on? What are we thinking about today? What are we contributing to? What are we spreading? What are we participating in? What are we sharing? There's these 6 strategic questions that we use in Red Team Coaching to help executives at strategic planning initiatives. And I think that they are very relevant to also our daily actions, what action we're taking in relation to our lives, our work, our roles, our teams, our families. So the more that we are deliberate with how we show up, how we can understand our part, how we can understand our own needs, what we are capable of bringing, the value that we hold, and the areas where we need help, the greater chance that we have of setting realistic expectations, setting appropriate boundaries, understanding that ebb and flow that comes with being human and with leaning on other people. And so if we can ask the right questions, because we now know ourselves and because we now know what we come with, what we bring to the table, we can start seeing things differently. And so here are some of the questions. What problem is this solving? What problem am I solving? What problem is the team solving? What are we doing? Is what we're doing moving us forward in connection to this greater vision, this mission that we have? Are we marching forward together or separately? Is it the right problem? Sometimes we're solving problems, but they're not the ones that are moving us in the direction that we are needing to go. And so we have to be vigilant and ask, is this the right problem that we're solving? And what is it that we're not choosing to do? What are we deliberately deciding we are not going to do this? Are we clear on that? Are you clear on where your limits are and where your boundaries are so that you can express them in ways where others know how to respond appropriately, where others know how to step in or not to go? We're not going to go down this path because it isn't leading us in the direction that we need. From a strategic lens, you can say, is this plan, is it executed as it's written? And if it is, what will the company then look like? Well, What about for us? Is this plan, are these goals, are these missions and values that we uphold, are we executing them as we intend? And if we were, well, what will we look like? What will our lives look like? What will our futures look like? Are we building up or are we tearing down? And if this plan that we have, this goal that we have, if it's executed as we intend, what will that mean for our lives? What will that mean for our companies? What will that mean for our families? What will it mean for our teams? How will it impact them? And what will it mean for our business? What will it mean for our leadership, our career, our trajectory? I was on a call yesterday with Jim Britt and Jim Lutz, if you're familiar with who they are. Jim Britt was the mentor for Jim Rohn. There's a lot of Jims. And they were talking about executing action with precision. Jim Lutz was talking about executing action with precision, meaning every day we have a choice with how we focus on what it is that we are going to do. We have a choice with how we are going to intentionally set aside time, be a part of certain behaviors, see through goals and tasks, or whatever it is that we have on our plate to do. How we show up is the key. What we believe about what it is that we're doing. What are we focusing on? Are we focusing on it positively or negatively? Are we complaining? Or are we empowering and uplifting? Are we putting ourselves in a victim mode? Or are we empowering ourselves to be conquerors? Our mindset is crucial. It's key for success in everything that it is that we do, whatever we set out to do, whatever it is that we're hoping to create. When we feel like we have a seed inside of us, a purpose, something that we are there to enact, a higher calling, even though it lives within us, it's our mind that determines how we move forward. I was asked this morning, what was it that helped me to push forward and to decide to go forward on these goals of mine, push forward on my business, in my career, how I showed up in my career and grew after some of the things that I had faced earlier in my life. It no longer became about me. It became bigger than me, but not in a grandiose kind of way. It was about how can I serve in a greater capacity? How can I be of service? How can I support and uplift others? How can I be a blessing to other people? And to give ourselves the grace to fail and to stumble and to fall and to get back up and keep going. But it's our mind that enables that, and our heart. The two are connected very deeply, and our gut. We have to think very critically and carefully about what it is that we are wanting to do. And it infiltrates every aspect of our lives, is permeating with intentionality. See, when we're not intentional is when we go off the rails. When we're not thinking through, when we're not deliberate, when we don't understand ourselves well enough, is when we start to numb out or zone out or become a victim or overextend ourselves because we're not thinking carefully. Be the master of your mind so that you understand intentionally how you show up, how you contribute, what it is that you are contributing to and being purposeful in every single conversation, action, decision that you make throughout the day. And be mindful of that, especially on days like today, when there's greater division, there's greater upheaval, there's greater tension, there's greater pressure. And there's a greater divisiveness based on beliefs and opinions, where we need to still work together and come together and recognize who we are, our core values, what we stand for as humans. I just felt this on my heart. It came out very imperfectly, but I appreciate you listening. And I give you peace, and I hope that together that we will continue to rise up through this. Thanks so much. Many blessings.